How's it going, everybody? My name is Noah Holley, and welcome back to another episode of the Pride Report, CollegePridePress.com's Monday through Thursday college basketball show. It is episode 24, and I'm in a great mood today because Selection Sunday is barely over a month away. Yes, we are officially in the home stretch of the college basketball season. But anyway, we have so much to talk about today, so let's not waste any more time and hop right into it. Now, theoretically, nothing should surprise me in college basketball anymore, but last night I was left with my jaw wide open thanks to this absolutely stunning upset. St. John's earned their first Big East win last night at top-ranked Villanova, picking up their first win over a number one team in 33 years behind 26 points from Shamori Pons. It was the Johnnies' second win over a top-5 team in 5 days, with the first, of course, coming over Duke on Saturday. Now, I still cannot fully comprehend how this happened. In 11 games against Big East opponents prior to this contest, St. John's was unable to win once. But then they go on the road and face the nation's very best team and emerge victorious. It is so hard to wrap your head around. But now, despite what their poor Big East record suggests, St. John's has never been a bad team. 8 of their 11 Big East losses came by single digits. Their difficulty finishing games has been the real issue against Providence, Seton Hall, Creighton, Georgetown twice, Xavier twice. The Red Storm was either in the lead or within 5 points of the lead at the 25-minute mark. The difference in the Duke and Villanova wins was St. John's ability to slow the game down and minimize mistakes and poor shots. As for Villanova, the loss of Eric Paschall to concussion proved too much to overcome. The Wildcats got just 2 points out of Demir Cosby-Roundtree, who got the start in place of Paschall. Combine the absences of him and Phil Booth, and you get a surprisingly vulnerable Wildcats squad, and that's why I'm writing this off as more of a brief bump in the road than anything else. The great action doesn't end there, of course. Last night we saw Ohio State end Purdue's 19-game winning streak, beating the Boilermakers 64-63 in an absolute thriller. Kaida Bates Diop's putback with 3 seconds remaining capped off OSU's 14-point rally and lifted the Buckeyes to first place in the Big Ten with just 2 weeks of conference action left. It is safe to say that Chris Holtmann has all but locked up the National Coach of the Year. You truly cannot say enough about what he has accomplished at Ohio State. There's never a moment where he isn't getting the absolute best out of his guys. Virginia avoided upset on the road at Florida State, rallying from a 10-point halftime deficit to top the Seminoles 59-55. Florida State controlled the pace early in the game, which was their goal coming in. In the first half, UVA was unable to get into a rhythm defensively, and what resulted was one of the Who's worst halves of defense all season long. But in the second half, Virginia settled into the pack line and disrupted Florida State's flow. The Noles weren't getting the easy looks that they were getting earlier in the game, and they couldn't string enough baskets together to hold on to the lead. Texas A&M stunned 8th-ranked Auburn 81-80 after Dwayne Wilson converted 1 of 2 from the line with 4 seconds remaining. TJ Starks had 23, Robert Williams had 16, and the Aggies won their 3rd in a row. Now, Texas A&M is playing better and better with each passing game. The SEC must take notice. A&M has the talent to accomplish big things, but injuries and a variety of other reasons have derailed this season. For example, the front court trio of Tyler Davis, Williams, and Ho can be borderline unstoppable at times. I like what they have going on in the backcourt as well, especially if Starks continues to play this way. So if they can stay healthy and continue to build momentum, watch out. The NCAA tournament selection process was recently altered. As we get closer and closer to March, I figured that it would be a good idea to kind of run through and discuss what exactly was changed under this new format and how it impacts the sport. So I'm going to start off by introducing the new terminology. So basically, no longer will the committee group together all wins and losses versus top 50 or top 100 teams. Under the new format, road wins versus top 70 opponents will be lumped into the same category as home wins versus top 30 opponents, and so on and so forth. These new categories are called quadrants. Now, this changes everything. The committee now heavily prioritizes road wins and neutral court wins. For example, as of last night, A win on the road over, let's say, Rider or Wyoming would be a Quadrant 1 victory, but a home win over Michigan or Butler would be a Quadrant 2 victory. So definitely a big time change. Now here's a breakdown of each quadrant. I'll put it on screen. As you can see, it's a vastly different dynamic, but I think that is a step in the right direction. Now, I like this change for a few reasons. First of all, it just makes more sense. It's much more difficult to beat a team on the road, and the fact that the committee barely took that into consideration needed to be changed. And second of all, it's going to benefit mid-major schools who are forced to travel to face Power 6 opposition. And personally, I think that's a good thing. We definitely need to give those guys more of a chance to earn at-large bids. Yes, the terminology is going to take some getting used to, but all in all, I think that it is a very good move. Duke and North Carolina, the best rivalry in all of sports, picks up again tonight at the Dean Dome at 8 p.m. on ESPN. Both teams are going to enter the game with plenty of questions. We'll start with Duke. The Blue Devils are coming off of their worst loss in a decade to St. John's on Saturday. At times, Duke looks like an unstoppable machine, but at other times, any sense of togetherness is lost and their youth shows. Duke performs best when it communicates and spreads the ball to get the most out of its possessions, but Coach K has struggled to get his guys to consistently play that way all season long. North Carolina, on the other hand, finds itself forced to play an unfamiliar style of basketball thanks to the lack of a true interior presence. Luke May has been fantastic, but he's more of a stretch forward than a bruising power forward. The Tar Heels' blatant inability to defend the three-point shot complicates things even further. At the end of the day, however, it is still UNC and Duke. Regardless of each team's struggles, you know this rivalry is going to be consistently entertaining. I mean, when is the last time that this game hasn't come down to the wire? I absolutely cannot wait, and neither should you. Remember, 8 p.m. on ESPN. You don't want to miss it. Now that we've talked about Thursday's big games, let's move right along and talk about Saturday's big game. Saturday's slate is absolutely stacked, so let's not waste any more time and hop right into it. Now, the big game is Purdue at Michigan State. Now, this isn't a first-place Big Ten battle, but it is going to be the toughest remaining challenge for each team, and it is, of course, a top-5 matchup, so really looking forward to this one. Michigan State is off to their best start since the 2001 season, but are struggling to play to their potential for a full 40 minutes. In back-to-back games now, the Spartans have been pushed to the brink by cellar-dwelling Big Ten adversaries. In their most recent game, a near loss to Iowa on Tuesday, MSU struggled from a lackadaisical defensive effort that allowed the Hawkeyes to rack up 26 assists. It was an uncharacteristically poor performance for a Michigan State defense that currently ranks 8th in the country in Haslametrics adjusted efficiency. They must bounce back against a Purdue team that spreads the court and consistently hits a high percentage of their three-point shots. I like MSU's chances to do that for two reasons. First of all, Michigan State gives up very few second chance points, and offensive rebounding is arguably Purdue's biggest weakness. Second of all, Michigan State is very tough to score on in the near proximity, so Isaac Haas probably won't be able to dominate. If the Spartans can limit Purdue's effectiveness from deep, they'll have a good chance to win the game. Top-ranked Villanova hosts Butler at noon on Fox in a game that feels so much bigger after the Wildcats' stunning loss to St. John's last night. This game would have been big regardless, as Butler's dominant 101-93 win over Villanova all the way back in January no doubt still lingers in the minds of the Wildcats. In the first meeting between these teams, Villanova had no answer for Butler's hot three-point shooting. The Bulldogs hit 15 of 22 from downtown, exposing holes in the Wildcats defense that, prior to the contest, none of us had any idea were there. I doubt Butler will be able to repeat those numbers, but Villanova will be without their best perimeter defender in Phil Booth, so they're definitely vulnerable in that area. St. Mary's will host Gonzaga at 10 p.m. on ESPN2 in the final regular season meeting between the two West Coast powerhouses. Jock Landale is worth staying up for, so if you haven't seen him yet, I definitely recommend that you tune in to this game. There's not a single more dominant college basketball player in the country. Not one. You can pencil this guy in for 10 to 12 field goals a game. He is that good. In the first meeting between these teams, Gonzaga just had no answer for Landale. If that's the case Saturday night as well, then I expect St. Mary's to polish off the season sweep. That's going to do it for my Saturday preview. As always, I put the CPP staff's picks for these games and much more in the description below if you are interested. That's actually going to do it for the entire episode as well. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe and to follow the show on Twitter at CPP Pride Report. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to join me next week for another great week of the Pride Report. I'm going to be talking bracketology, previews, recaps, and all that great stuff, so you do not want to miss it. Now, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. I will see you guys next week. Cheers, fellas.